From a young age, I got Crohn's disease. I was on medication for all my life. At its peak, I was on 14 tablets a day. When I was 26, it was Christmas Day, and the worst thing happened to me. I was just sat on the sofa, and then suddenly it just felt like someone just shot me in the stomach and poured battery acid on top. That pain was excruciating beyond belief, and I was rushed to hospital, and it turned out I had a significant bowel perforation. I had to have emergency surgery where one foot of my intestine was chopped out. The doctors prior to me having that surgery was saying, if you don't have this surgery, you're gonna die. And I went down to 5 stone 2 as a 26-year-old, which is the weight of a small child. I wasn't living, I was surviving. I physically were dreaming about just being able to walk again.
Can you take through it from your experience, the steps that you went through to overcome it?
The first step was nutrition. I started to get to work to remove foods out my diet. I removed things like, then it's like, all right, what can I introduce? And it was more like,
It sounded like no one was telling you this before.
no one was telling me. I created Cosmic Hue, which is an all-natural plant tea, essentially fueling your second brain, because I know for a fact it's going to help millions of people around the world, and it's already helping thousands of people currently. I went through this turmoil with my health to now being one of the strongest people pound for pound in the country within 12 months after a bowel perforation.
If you could change what happened, would you change it?
Absolutely not.
Manny, can you start by articulating the mission that you're on?
My mission is to help millions of people around the world. And my unique way of doing that is through fueling your second brain, which is your gut. And that's based off my own journey of turmoil when it came to my own gut health. So my mission is simply to serve humanity in my unique way through Fifth Ray.
And you've had a very interesting, quite dynamic story that has led you up to that point. Can you take us from the beginning? What has led you to being so passionate about this mission?
So from a young age, I got Crohn's disease. So for the people that don't know what Crohn's disease is, it's an inflammatory bowel disease, which is seen as incurable. What happens is it can affect any part of your digestive tract. But for me, it was in the small intestine. And I had symptoms of loss of appetite, stomach cramps, diarrhea, bleeding from the rectum, weight loss, poor appetite. And I suffered from the age of 11 when I was diagnosed in 2001. And it just consumed my life, but it was normal. Like, because I've had it from such a young age, I was just like, you know what? It's just my Crohn's flaring up. It's fine. If I'm going to be bedridden for a little bit, or if I'm going to be, on the sofa, I accepted it. And I was on medication for all my life, pretty much from the age of 11 for 16 years. At its peak, I was on 14 tablets a day to manage this Crohn's disease. To highlight, Crohn's is like a malfunctioning of the immune system. So the body doesn't know what good or bad bacteria is in the body. So the immune system just attacks everything, thinking like everything's just seen as bad, to put it simply. What happens with that is it leads to chronic inflammation. It leads to a lot of symptoms, which I just mentioned. And I was impacted by that all my life. And if we fast forward, I went to hospital regularly, went to hospital in and out from the age of 11 till I was 26. And when I was 26, it was Christmas Day. And the worst thing happened to me because I was just sat on the sofa, and then suddenly it just felt like someone just shot me in the stomach and poured battery acid on top for good measure. Like, that pain was excruciating beyond belief. And I didn't know what happened. And I was rushed to hospital, and it turned out I had a significant bowel perforation. My intestine just burst. And I had to have emergency surgery where one foot of my intestine was chopped out. But because I was so weak, they couldn't reattach the two ends of my intestine back together. So they created what is called a loop ileostomy or a stoma. So I had an ileostomy bag fitted which was meant to save my life, because the doctors prior to me having that surgery was saying, if you don't have this surgery, you're going to die. And I was like, is there not any other alternatives? There must be something you can do. And they were like, pretty much like, no, there isn't. This is your only option. So kind of begrudgingly, I did it, thinking like, I value my life. And I spent 5 days just laying in a hospital bed on a drip before I had the surgery for the 1 foot, 30 centimeters to be cut out. From there, my health deteriorated massively, and within 2.5 months, I lost 27% of my body weight. And what the doctor said to me was, if you lose 10% of your body weight, we'll be worried. If you lost 20%, it's a red flag. And they're like, you've lost 27% of your body weight, which is a third of your body weight. And I'm not the biggest person. Like, I'm 5'3". At the time I weighed around 8.5, 9 stone. And I went down to 5 stone 2 as a 26-year-old, which is the weight of a small child. So I was literally a shell. I was a skeleton. I was frail. And what happened was, they were like, you need to come back to hospital. We need to feed you intravenously through something called TPN. And I was like, okay, but all I cared about was this reversal surgery, because to me, the reversal surgery, which is reattaching both ends of my intestine, would allow me to rebuild my strength, rebuild my life. And they were like, okay, we'll do that only if we can put your Crohn's disease in remission. You'll put 16 kg of body weight on, and then we'll consider doing the surgery after 12 months. So there's some things to highlight here is, in these 16 years at this point, I was never had my Crohn's disease in remission. I suffered for 16 years. I was on all this medication, immunosuppressants, which was literally suppressing my immune system, all sorts of things. Then they wanted me to put 16 kg of body weight on. So even though I lost 1/3 of my body weight, that 16 kg would have meant I would have been heavier than I've ever been. So I was like, all right, I'm at rock bottom. I'm 5 stone 2 as a 26-year-old, and you want me to put 16 kg on, and then you're only going to consider doing the reversal surgery when I do these like monumental kind of comeback. And I paused, and I was like, all right, bring it on. Challenge accepted. If you want me to do that, like, I'm going to show you how it's done. And that's kind of the introduction to where my journey takes me.
Yeah, I think it must be quite hard for someone that hasn't gone through Crohn's, and particularly to your severity, because obviously people with Crohn's can have different severities as well. And it seems like you really had the bad luck there, and some of the worst symptoms. Can you give us an idea then of, so that was like one of your worst times. What did an average day look like within those 16 years for someone suffering that badly with Crohn's?
Yeah, an average day to me was the bowel movements. So, most people open the bowels once, twice a day. A normal day was probably 6 to 10 times a day. A normal day, a bad day would be like 15 plus times a day. But bear in mind, with Crohn's, like, you struggle with each movement. So like one movement might be 20, 30 minutes a time, times that by 6 times a day. I had really poor appetite. I was very skinny as a child. I'd eat a little bit. I'm full. But I had quite a bit of energy. I was an active child and teenager, and going into my 20s. I had a lot of pain in my stomach. So I had daily pain in my gut. And it was normal. Like I said, I just normalized it. It's like, oh, it's just my Crohn's playing up. It's fine. But I wasn't living. I was surviving. I was kind of just getting through the day every day for 16 years. And it was nowhere to live.
Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to ask for a very quick favor, and that is to simply subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you're watching on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then to follow. It's one of the best ways you can help to support this podcast and helps me to keep on making better and better episodes for you. Thank you so much for your support. Back to the episode. I suppose to some extent that's kind of, at least after a while, that's all you really knew.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all I ever knew. Yeah.
Did you? What was your biggest dream then at that time in regards to? I mean, obviously you wanted to go away and live normally, but what was the thing that you wanted to actually get back to? What was the thing that you wanted to do that you couldn't do at that time?
There's two elements to this because physically my health was not the best, clearly, but mentally I was like, I'm limitless. I can do whatever I desire. What was Crohn's holding me back from truly was is the fact that I felt like I wasn't running at 100%. It was almost like I had to climb the hill. The climb for me was harder than most people when it came to sports because I used to play a lot of football. I played cricket, I played badminton. Later on, I got into powerlifting, but like it was like a normal person would have to work half as hard as I had to work twice as hard to get half the distance as normal people, and that was with everything. And I don't have anything specific because, from an athletic point of view, like I thought I was a great footballer, but I could have been far better. I was I'm great at badminton and all these sports, but I always had in my mind that I had to work twice as hard to get half the distance. And I thought, well, imagine if I was 100% healthy and if I wasn't impacted by this debilitating, incurable disease, like how much better I could be. So I didn't see it as a hindrance, but I also was this part of me that believed that it was holding me back, if that makes sense.
What do you think then was the biggest growth point out of that? That because it sounds like as you said, you had mentally you wanted to go much further than you could actually physically, and so that frustration that you had, and the fact that you had to work doubly as hard. What kind of characters do you think you have built because of that experience?
Resilience. Um, when you go through an experience like that, you have to have thick skin and tenacity, and that's hard when you're suffering. And part of our the human psyche, and especially the reptilian part of our brain, you prioritize survival. And I was, I don't want to admit it, but I probably was in survival mode a lot of the time. And it was, rather than being survival mode, I have to stay strong. I have to be resilient. I have to be tenacious, but to persevere as well, perseverance, because it's easy to get caught up in like the the sadness of what's going on. Like I'm struggling. I can't get I can't compare myself to my friends who are probably a bit more dynamic, more athletic. And another thing is actually it's stunting my growth. It's probably the biggest thing. Is like right now I'm 5'3", and because I got it at such a young age, I wasn't able to absorb my nutrients from my food. I suffer with malabsorption as well, which I forgot to mention. And that was like, it was seen as a hindrance when I was younger because, everyone else was bigger, they were stronger than me, especially coming back to being into sports. Like that was another struggle I had as like, I'm playing football and someone's already like, say 6 foot and I'm 5 foot and I'm trying to power someone off a ball, I have to outrun them. That was an uphill climb as well. And for me, I had to stay like, you know what, I am who I am, but I'm strong and I'm dynamic and I can not only keep up with people who are physically more dominant than me, but for me to do that, I have to believe that I have to believe that I'm resilient, but also show that I'm resilient as well, and actually just go do it. And that's tough because if you're getting out muscled, outran by people day in and day out on the playground, when I got a bit older, it's tough, but you can't allow it to hold you back.
You must have got very used to a very valuable, I wouldn't call it a skill, maybe it is a skill, but the skill of being able to fail, which is obviously a really important thing to be able to do and learn from and not be put down by. And I suppose you probably didn't have much choice but to fail and keep getting back up. Would you say that was a big aspect for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like With life, you have to fail because with failure comes lessons. And I don't see failure is not how I would view it. I would see it as a learning experience. Yeah, there's an expression: fail fast and fail forward. I certainly have that mindset. I have from a young age because of like with Crohn's disease. It built into me this kind of mentality: if you're gonna fail, learn from it and move forward, rather than get sucked into, oh, failed, I'm just gonna give up. This is difficult. Like I keep trying and trying and trying. I'm not getting any further ahead. It doesn't matter how far forward you get, as long as you learn, and even this tiniest step forward after that failure is a win. And it's about turning the failures into wins, and that comes from how you view a failure.
Yeah, your reframing there, I suppose, shows how you view then failure, and it's a good point actually. It's probably better not to view it as failing, but actually as a learning experience, because then that really helps. What was it? Someone said the other day, something about failure. What was it? Yeah, no, it wasn't about failure. It was like someone that's trying to give up smoking, and you've got one person that someone offers them a cigarette, and one person that says, sorry, I've given up smoking, or I'm trying not to smoke. And the other person says, I don't smoke. It's a completely reframe of actually, no, this is almost like my identity. This is who I am. And it's a reframe there of, no, I'm not failing. I'm learning from it. Let's see what we can learn from it, rather than look at the negative side of things and let's dwell on that and not move forwards. What I also want to know then, because you've talked about then what that experience looked like for you, that must have been a really hard experience for your parents or from the people looking from the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my mum's strong, and I probably picked up a lot of traits from my mum. Like she was not phased by what was going on. Like or at least I didn't see it. I see a lot of parents now in my experience of now helping people with their gut health. The parents are really worried, they're scared, and that projects on the children. Whereas my mum didn't. She was like, she nurtured me, she looked after me, she took care of me, but it was tough. It was absolutely tough. Imagine your child, your loved one, going through that turmoil and seeing it day in and day out, and trying to help him is hard. And same with my dad. His mindset was a bit different. He was a bit more like, I wouldn't say forceful, but more like, right, we need to fatten you up. Just eat. Let's try and bulk you up. Let's listen to the doctors. They know best. If they're saying do this medication, do it. And they're like, all right, cool. But I didn't see him upset, which is a good thing, and I didn't see him sad. I just saw the strength, and that gives me strength as well. And it probably played a part in why I was confident I could get better, because I had two parents that were like, just keep going.
Do you think you would have got through it without that support?
Yeah, I think I could, yeah. Because the thing is, no one's going to save you but you. And I knew that at a young age, when you just, the world can be hard. High school is tough experience, actually. That's probably a good breeding ground for people who are going to either succeed or, I wouldn't say fail because we just touched on that, but not succeed as well, because you are in survival mode. You got people who can be mean and rude and careless and things of that nature in high school, because people are all learning. You're all in the same environment trying to learn. So I was like, no one's going to come save me, so I have to save myself. And having the support is huge. Like having support is fundamental to move forward. You can't do anything by yourself, but it starts with yourself. So in my own experience, I realized that people only help you if they can see you helping yourself first. And, if you start moving forward with attempting to help yourself, then people are more likely to support you more. Don't get me wrong, if you're on your deathbed, people come and sit with you. They will bring you food and flowers and send prayers and well wishes and do what they can do within their remit. But generally, if you take some action yourself, then the help just comes flooding in.
Yeah, it's hard to help someone that doesn't want to be able to, doesn't want the help. Essentially, you can't really do a lot, can you? But just offer your help, and if they take it, they take it. If they don't, they don't. So you were in hospital. They said that you needed to gain weight to be able to do the surgery, so you can get your health back. How did you do that?
When I was in hospital, there I was just bedbound. I was literally bedbound. I physically couldn't walk because now I've lost all muscle. I've lost all physical function, really. I could literally walk a few steps. So I'll share a story. I was in hospital one day and people, like old friends, will come in to see me. They got wind of like, oh, Manny's unwell, he's in hospital. And a couple of friends came to see me that I haven't seen since like maybe since I was a teenager. And I had a tablet set up where I had Sky. This was 2017, just before Netflix became a bit more mainstream. So I had like Sky linked up to my phone. I said, oh, I've got Sky. I've got these apps. And he turned around and said, oh, I'll be chilling. I'll be catching up on Breaking Bad and all these box sets. And I looked at him and I said, I'm not here for a holiday. I'm not here to chill. I'm here to get better and leave this hospital healthier than I was when I came in. And I pointed at the door, and the door was like a short distance, maybe like 8 steps away. And I said, my mission is to walk to that door and back to this bed. Once I know I can do that without being exhausted, and just what would happen is I would be exhausted from such the most minute things because I've been bedbound for so long, and I just became so weak. And I said, once I can walk to that door and back, what I'm going to do next is walk down the hallway and back to this bed. And once I can do that, I'm going to walk to the other side of the hospital. And the other side of this hospital had like a food court, like a M&S food hall and some other bits and bobs. I was like, I want to walk to that and back. That's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to catch up on my TV. And that was like my experience of like the initial steps of like moving forward was like, it goes back to the same mentality. No one's going to come save me but me. I was in the right environment. I'm in a hospital. I'm under great care. I've got doctors, nurses, IBD specialists, lots of people supporting me, but I didn't rely on them to get me out of this hospital. I had to take the action with what I could do, and what I could physically do was take literal baby steps to the door and back. And that was the building blocks to me really recovering.
It's crazy how small your goals can be to everyone else, but how massive that can be to you. You know, like your goals now are so much bigger than the goals that were in your bed, but arguably perhaps not any harder, you know, to walk just a few steps down the hall.
Absolutely. Like, I'm just thinking about a video that you did previously, the surprising health benefits of walking. Yeah. I mean, like, if I kind of reflect on them times where I physically were dreaming about just being able to walk again, and it blows my mind because I still am reminded by this. If I'm walking down the street and I see someone who is walking at a slower pace, maybe they're elderly or they have a visible disability, I send them love because I'm like, I know what that feels like. I've been through that experience. And it's quite humbling in a lot of ways. It reframes how you look at life. Like, I don't take a lot of things for granted. I don't take anything for granted, actually, because walking is fundamental for our mechanics. I mean, you know, I think about people who physically can't walk, like quadriplegics, for example, but I'm grateful I can walk again. And it's mad to think that, you know, the biggest goal to me was being able to walk to a door and back. Like, and goals, to you, that might seem so simple, or like walking to a door and back. But to me, it's the biggest goal, and it's perception. It doesn't matter what the goal is, and it's about how meaningful that goal is to you, regardless if you think it's small but it's big to me and vice versa, it's irrelevant because it's my goal and it's personal to me, and the goalposts do move. Like, and that's the joy of life. That life is about setting a target, reaching it, and then what's next? Like I said about, all right, I want to walk to that door. That's goal number 1. Goal number 2, right, I want to walk down the hall. Goal number 3, I want to walk to the other side of this hospital. But what's the ultimate goal? What's the moonshot? The moonshot is just to walk without stopping, without taking breaks, just and be limitless with the ability to walk. That's the ultimate goal. But you take the smaller steps to reach the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and arguably, if you looked at, I don't know, your goal was to walk a marathon, when you can walk to the door, you may have never even been able to walk to the door. So having those small steps is really helpful. And that's also the reason why it's so important for us to compete with ourselves and not with other people. Because you can look at other people and think, oh, well, they're all the way down there. I should be there, and yet you can't even do the next step for you. And that really applies, I think, in any aspect, because you can always find people that are worse off and always find people that are better off. And the way that you can orientate your mind is so critical. And I would imagine that was the reason why you actually achieved those goals, because you set small goals.
Yeah, of course. There's 2 elements you mentioned there. Is comparison. With comparison is the killer of joy, and a lot of people like to compare themselves to other people. But the thing is, when you compare, is they're on a completely different journey, and their journey is unique to them, and my journey is unique to me. There's no comparison whatsoever. Because they can walk and I can't. I can't say to you, all right, Stephen, well, you can walk. Why can't I walk? It's not a fair comparison. And I knew this firsthand when I was in hospital, because at first I had my own ward. I was quarantined when I first had the bowel perforation, but then later on I got moved to I got moved to a ward with 5 other people. There were 6 men, including myself, in this ward. I was the youngest person. I was 26, and the other 5 people were aged between 65 and 90, and they all had similar surgery to me. So you can see the difference. I'm 26 with a ileostomy bag or a stoma fitted. So were these other men, but they were 40 years plus older than me, up to 90. And what happened one day was, I was practicing walking in this ward. I'm still on my journey of like being able to walk, and because it's an open ward, I was trying to walk from one end to the other, which was, I don't know how the distance wise, maybe like 50 steps in one direction and back. So I'm just very gingerly walking really slowly. And one of the men, he was just watching me, and I never spoke to him in this ward. Everyone was suffering, so no one was really conversational. And he was at the end of the ward. So when I got near him, he goes, I wish I could do that. And once he said that, it put everything into context for me, because what I was doing was, I was in my hospital bed looking at people coming to visit me, and they come visit me, support me, but then they go off and live their own lives, and then they're just doing whatever they're doing. I would think, oh, but they're living their lives. And then the nurses, I'm like, but look, watching them whizzing up and down, supporting all the other patients. So I'm looking at them, going back to the comparison. I'm like, but look at them, they can, the dynamic in their movement, they can walk, and all my friends and family and the nurses. And then I'm walking up and down, but there's another patient who's looking at me and saying he wishes he could do what I'm doing. And I was like, wow. And it just made complete sense at that point. Like, you always look at people who are where you want to be, but you forget to look back. And there's universal law, which is law of relativity, which is basically everything is all relative. Like, I'm looking at other people because they can walk, but people are also looking at me because they want to be able to walk at my pace, or at least get out the bed. And it's a comparison can be a killer of joy. I live from a point of gratitude and grateful to be sat here and having this conversation with yourself, and you reaching out and inviting me, like, this is exciting and it's fun and we're having a great conversation. Um, I'm grateful for, I can list like every little thing, but the thing is, without gratitude, you struggle to move forward in life, because rather than thinking of what you don't have, you should be thinking about what you do have, because everyone seeks more. Like for me, I seek to be able to walk again, run again, go back to the gym was the biggest thing. But rather than thinking, oh, I can't walk, I can't go to the gym, and thinking about the lack I have in life, I thought about the abundance I have in my life. And that's what helps me propel forward. And everybody propel forward when you operate from a state of gratitude.
Yeah, definitely. So important. And one of the things that I do every morning is I thank God for the simple stuff in life. For example, just the fact that I got a house, a warm and dry environment, because when you got those things, you often don't think about those things. As you say, you're thinking about the next thing and you're trying to strive for that next thing. And I think that can be, as you say, that comparison is a killer of joy. Well, I suppose that links in, doesn't it? If you're not grateful for what you have, that is also a killer of joy. So continue us on that journey then. So how did you manage to achieve that first goal? Was it just sheer willpower and just doing it, or was there a trick to it?
There's no trick to it. It's just, the thing is, there's a formula to creating your reality, and I'm not going to go too deep into this just yet, but thoughts create feelings and feelings create action. We have 70,000 thoughts per day, roughly, and 95% of them thoughts are the same ones you had yesterday. And I speak to myself positively all the time, and not many people could probably say that, unfortunately. And I was like, right, my thought is, I'm going to walk to that door. I'm back. That's where it starts. That's my first step to my ultimate goal of just being able to walk freely. I was like, and that leads to a feeling. What's that feeling? That feeling is joy, excitement, happiness. Like, oh, cool. I can walk because I'm no longer bedbound now. All right, what's that feeling leading me to? An action. And that action is get out of this bed and start doing it. And that's what I did. So the trick is the feeling. The feeling is the secret, which is a quote from Neville Goddard, a spiritual teacher. And it's true, because it's the feeling that leads us to do what we do. And it can pull us in two directions, fear and love, essentially. And my love was the love of having my life back. And so, yeah, the secret or the trick is action. Just go do it.
So what did you do then when you could walk to the door?
Once I knew I could start walking again, it was the case of putting the weight on. Now I can physically move. I was like, right, now is the time to gain the weight, because now I've lost 27% of my body weight. I need to eat. And what I started to do was really understand gut health. I had this tablet, which I mentioned, where my friend was like, why don't you just catch up on your TV? And what I was doing was I would lay there and understand, how does the digestive system work? What is the importance of the immune system? What mineral and vitamin content is in food? Why is it important? Like when I was ill and I'd be deficient in iron, vitamin D, calcium, folic acid all the time, doctors would say, oh yeah, you're low in this, have these tablets. All right, cool. I did not know what's vitamin D, what's the importance of it, why do I care about folic acid? Now I started to ask myself, well, what is actually the importance of all this? So then I started to immerse myself in understanding more the anatomy of gut health, the digestive system, the immune system. And then, like, how can I heal from the inside out? Because my mindset was like, I don't want to just go back to get better and feel normal and go back to my life how it was, because I was in the mindset of, well, whatever I did was wrong. I need to improve what happened. So I need to be better than I was. So when I'm at rock bottom and my bowels perforated, I'm 5 stone 2, I'm bedridden, I didn't want to go back to being normal. I wanted to look further afield. So that distance, in theory, is further. And it seems a bit more unrealistic. Like, wait a second, you want to go from rock bottom to being better than you've ever been? How is that possible? And I was like, well, how do I get there? And how I was thinking was like, well, I need to take control of my health. I was on this medication all my life. I kind of just blindly listened to doctors because generally they have your best interests at heart, and there's a lot of trust in doctors, and I certainly had a lot of trust. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do to help myself? And then I started understanding the plants was the first thing that came to me, like the healing benefits of plants and herbs, steeped as a tea. So I started coming across ancient medicine or ancient healing modalities. I started to really review what I was eating, and my diet was like fast food. I used to eat McDonald's and KFC and doner kebabs. I used to drink Coca-Cola every day. That was normal in my life, actually. And I used to eat a lot of sweets. I loved sweets. And so the next step was like reviewing what I was consuming. And I was like, wait a second. I started to understand like how sugar causes inflammation, and especially if consistently eating sugary processed food, fast food. I can understand why my health was so poor, because it was my diet. So I went to eliminate foods from my diet and introduce more foods that were healing, that were going to nourish my body from the inside out. And that took me in like to the next phase of my journey, which continues to this day.
Yeah, well, I mean, so the 16 years that you had the Crohn's, you were eating a lot of fast food and all that, and not really knowing, I suppose, like, did you put two and two together that this could be making the Crohn's worse, or did you think it would be unrelated at that stage?
I understood what triggered me. So this is interesting. I see this with a lot of people that I work with their gut health. Is I knew certain foods would be a trigger and cause me pain or cause me to have diarrhea. But what I would be like, you know what, I really enjoy, let's say a doner kebab. Oh, I really like doner kebab. Let's put some chili sauce on there. It'll be fine, and I'll deal with it tomorrow. So I'd eat it knowing that I would suffer for the joy of consuming it. And I was aware of what was going on, but I didn't fully put two and two together of like, let me heal my Crohn's disease because I should eat better. Bear in mind, I got Crohn's in 2001. No one was talking about it. There wasn't much research on it. There was not much information. And I didn't meet anyone with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis until I got into probably around about when my bowel perforated. So for them, actually 16 years, I didn't come across anyone. It's only in the last probably 8 years now that IBD, overall Crohn's and colitis, has really shot up in terms of the number of people impacted with it, and not only in the UK, but in the world. And yeah, so I just realized actually, I didn't realize actually the link between food and Crohn's disease. I just continued and ate out of the enjoyment of the food that I was consuming.
Yeah, that sounds like, I think a lot of people these days actually is that, and I hear it all the time with different types of conditions, and how the diet doesn't seem to be, I think most people know that what's healthy and what's unhealthy, but the extent at which the food is having an impact on their health, I think, is quite often undervalued. And it sounds like in your story then, it wasn't until you did your own research that you actually really understood this. It wasn't like, it sounded like no one was telling you this before.
And the question is, who should be telling me? And the answer is the doctors. No one was telling me. Not a single person said to me, "Oh, Manny, why don't you be mindful of what you eat?" Actually, none of that conversation never came up once. Well, actually, when I was 13, my dad took me to an appointment with the IBD specialist. And he was like, you know what, like, he's skinny, like, how can we fatten him up? And the doctor turned around and said to him, oh, he can have bacon and biscuits, was his advice. And so my dad took that literally, and you know, I like have full English breakfasts and packets of biscuits, custard creams, and all this. And I'm like, all right, cool. Now, in hindsight, when I look at this, I'm like, wow, wait a second. An IBD specialist who specializes in a chronic illness, his advice to my dad, was have bacon. And bacon, by the World Health Organization, is cast as a carcinogenic. Anything carcinogenic causes cancer. That's a whole like rabbit hole in itself. Why is that even legal for starters? But so bacon causes more chronic problems. So that's making my Crohn's worse. Biscuits, I mean, is an obvious one. A lot of sugar. Sugar causes inflammation. So you're making my Crohn's worse there from two ends. Now I'm eating it in abundance. So my Crohn's was probably getting worse because one, my diet I've just mentioned that was awful. But then being advised that to eat this kind of stuff. So yeah, the advice from food was awful.
Gosh, I mean, it's one thing to omit the food advice, but it's another thing to literally advise the exact opposite that can make it worse. You know, and I always like to be careful when I talk to, you know, when we talk about doctors in the general sense. It's very difficult though, because I hear this so often that people are not getting the root cause discussed about their condition. What they're getting is a medication to help manage their symptoms. And sure, medications can be helpful to manage them when, you know, you're in it and you're struggling, or and I can also understand from the doctor's point of view that there are lots of people that are not willing to go to the extent that you went to actually get to the cause of the problem. Even if it was laid out to them, they probably wouldn't do it. There'll be some people that wouldn't want to do it. And they must get a bit frustrated at that and maybe just think, okay, I'll just give them medication. But there are loads of people like yourself that were waiting to hear this information. And it definitely needs to be more widespread. And I think part of the problem is that the training that medical doctors get is almost zero from what I hear in nutrition. And I think that's really sad. There definitely needs to be more done about that. You know, and saying that, of course, I know there are lots of doctors that are very good at this type of stuff, and maybe probably we're getting more doctors like that. But yeah, that must be quite frustrating, kind of looking back to think, you know, what would happen if I dealt with this earlier, and what that would have looked like if you got the right advice.
I don't look at it like that. You're right, completely right with everything you said. But I don't look back in frustration. That was the journey I was on. I've learned from it and I move forward. The past is a perception of your memory. I can't go back and say, oh, I wish I did this earlier, I knew earlier. Like, there's no point of having them thoughts because nothing can be done. But what I can do is the knowledge I have now, I can move forward. And yeah, I didn't receive that advice. Doctors in this remit don't have their medical training is treating the symptoms with medication and not getting to the root cause, but also the two modes of advice that they lean towards straight away, in my experience, and the experience with so many other people with Crohn's and colitis, is medication and surgery. My journey, and we haven't got to this point, took me on helping other people with their Crohn's and colitis and gut health overall. And I became a gut health coach, and I help people heal their gut health naturally in the ways that I did. And the first two questions I ask everybody is, tell me more about your diet and your nutrition, and tell me about your stress. Did I get them questions asked to me in all them years I've suffered? Not once, ever. And them two are the fundamental building blocks to more autoimmune diseases overall, not just Crohn's and colitis. And out of them two questions that I ask, 99% of the time, I actually know the answer to what the problem is, or what we can improve to help them reduce their symptoms or whatever it may be from them two questions. The first thing I would say, to going back to what you said about the medical training, is why are we not asking people about the diet and the stress? The diet is fundamental. Like, what you consume is clearly impacting your digestive system and your immune system. 70% of your immune system's in your gut, and 90% of your stress is in your gut. It's two obvious questions. So there's some alarm bells that go off in my head of how these doctors are trained and why they're trained in this manner. I'm not going to go too far into this, but I mean, when I teach someone to improve their diet and manage their stress better, I don't expect to see them ever again for their gut health, because I've given them the tools and the guidance and the building blocks to heal and get better. A doctor in this remit would be like, come here, have this medication to mask your symptoms. Come see me in 3 months. And what the medication is doing is maintaining their sickness. And what I mean by that is that they can kind of get by for another 3 months, and then they'll see them and they're like, yeah, this is working. It's supporting me. My symptoms are reduced. And then maybe 3 months after that fact, they're like, oh, my symptoms have got worse. And they're like, all right, let's increase the dosage of your medication. And then that might work for a period of time. So now you're maintaining your sickness for 6 months. And then after that, it's like, oh, now this higher dosage has stopped working, which happens to probably nearly everyone. And it's like, oh, we've got this new medication or this new drug that's come out, or try this one. Then it's another cycle. And then now you're on this another drug and another drug and another drug and going through these repeating cycles. I did that for 16 years. I know what that feels like. And it's never ending, because then you're on medication for life. And I want to make it clear that it supports a lot of people, and a lot of people benefited and healed from these medications. I didn't have that story. It just maintained my sickness. It wasn't until I really took power back into my own hands and started to think, well, what's the root cause? How can I do that? And just from a very high level, diet and stress are the first two things to look at, as well as sleep, exercise, moving the body, mindfulness / mental health are all pieces of the puzzle. I would love for doctors, as in NHS doctors, to be guiding people in this manner. You get like holistic doctors and things like that, or herbalists, and who are on the right path, who advise all this stuff, and you see great results in that aspect. But why is it not universally spoken about is my biggest question.
What was the most important factor then for you that turned your health around? Was it just one, or was it a collection? Like, was there a eureka moment for you?
There was continuous eureka moments, because now I can look back in hindsight and say, how I describe this actually to people that I work with. Imagine a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. All these pieces make up the bigger picture, and it's not just one thing. Like, if someone improved the diet, that's not going to be the end all be all. It's the building blocks are improved nutrition, better stress management, regulated and better sleep, moving the body, and that could be exercise in any form. For me, I turn to bodybuilding, powerlifting. Other people can be cycling, swimming, whatever it may be. And yeah, they're the foundational stuff. And mental health, because the mind has a direct correlation to your physical health. You know, it's an expression actually, and I'm just going to touch on this briefly. It's like when someone's sick, it's like, oh, I'm sick. But words have an impact on your direct physiology. So if you're saying, I am sick, you're going to be sick. Whereas I say, I am healing. And I reframe it as, I am healing, therefore I'm going to get better. Because when you're sick, then you're kind of like, oh, I'm sick. I'm going to put like a blanket over me. I'm going to lay on the sofa. I'm just going to feel sorry for myself until I get better. Whereas I'm like, no, I'm going to be proactive. I'm healing. I'm not sick.
I guess that drives more change, doesn't it, in behavior by having that framing?
All of that is changed, because if you say, you have got to change your diet, and that's hard. One of the things is people who I help, they're like, oh, when can I start eating crisps again? When can I start drinking Coca-Cola again, for example? I'm like, well, to be polite, never. And I say never because think about this. These foods is what's caused your symptoms, put you in hospital, caused you this pain. I know you enjoy the taste, you have enjoyment out of consuming these things, but do you enjoy suffering? And they're like, actually, no, I don't. So why would you want to go back to the foods that are poisonous, that have caused you suffering? Because then it's like, but I don't want to eat, I don't know, maybe more vegetables. Like, why would I want to eat more vegetables? I'm not a fan of vegetables, but it's the vegetables that are helping you live a more fulfilling life and to not rely on medications as much or ever. And it's a mental reframing. And that is the biggest thing I've come across, obviously for myself. I think it is kind of gleaned in this whole conversation of how I think towards just life in general, but certainly about health, is that it's about reframing it in a positive way. Because in hardship, in food, in diet, in anything, there's always a seed of positivity. And it's about taking that seed out and focusing on that seed of positivity and then let it blossom into a flower, a garden, and let it keep expanding. And that's the hardest thing people struggle with, because we're built in our programs about what we believe. And that's another part of this whole ecosystem of getting better. I mentioned about diet, sleep, mental health, stress management, exercise. The biggest one at the top is belief. Do you believe you're going to get better? Because Crohn's disease is an incurable disease. I do not have Crohn's disease at all. I believe I've got rid of it. It does not impact my life. And it's true, because I don't have any symptoms. I've been medication free for 7 years. I've been symptom free for 7 years. Therefore, why would I believe I have it? Because, people say to me, no, you do have it. It's incurable. You're in remission. I'm like, your mind is a powerful tool. If you believe something, and everything's built off belief systems. People believe in religion, in God. They believe in this brand of car is better than this brand of car. They believe an iPhone's better than an Android. Belief system is rampant in everyone's mind. But what's your belief towards your health? And that's hard. How do you tell someone who has an incurable illness, or over time you can believe that you don't have it? But that belief system was built to begin with. But how did they know that they had an illness that they had to suffer for the rest of their life? Because the doctors, when they first get diagnosed, is like, you'll always have this. You'll all have it for the rest of your life. You'll never be able to get rid of it. You'll never to heal from it. You'll never be able to be cured from it. So that's where a belief system is formed. Whereas imagine if someone was newly diagnosed and came to me, I would then be able to help them create a belief in the mind, create this pattern and say, you can heal it over time. And they never heard anyone else mention about it being uncurable. I guarantee they would be able to heal themselves. And for the people, which is everybody else, is being told you'll never get rid of it. It's hard. And people need to realize that I've had this worse than probably most people who have ever had Crohn's and colitis, and I've changed my mindset to know that I can overcome it. And getting at a young age, the impression is built from early on. My subconscious mind was impressed with, well, as an 11-year-old, I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. Okay, nothing I can do about it. It's out of my power. I have no control. But you do have control.
Roger Bannister was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. So up until he ran that, no one had ever done that time. So ran 1 mile in 4 minutes with it being recorded. So we didn't know of anyone that ever did that. Within 1 year that he did that, 50 other people broke that record. And to me, that is one of the biggest examples of how just lifting off the lid to your beliefs, to opening up and making the sky the limit, means that you can achieve a lot more. And so I just have this foundational belief that nothing is incurable. I fully accept there are certain things that are very difficult to completely get rid of and all that. But I completely agree with everything you said there, because the problem, and I'd rather be wrong this way than be wrong the other way, because by saying that not everything has a cause and everything can be cured, means that we're more likely to cure more things than if we say these things are incurable, don't bother with that, and you're going to live with these symptoms for the rest of your life. just accept it, deal with it. I just think that yields much worse results going forwards.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, how our minds work, especially the subconscious mind, is where our beliefs, our patterns, and our behaviors are built. If your belief is maybe towards the bad, just to put it simply, then the bad will always happen. I know a lot of people who always say, "Oh, knowing my luck, I'll get a flat tire," or "Knowing my luck, I'll lose some money," or whatever it may be. They believe that. It's an expression that you hear from a lot of people, which is weird now I think about it, but it's because something bad has happened to them, and then it reaffirms that belief, and then something else happens and something else, and so now they've got this bank of bad luck. So now they believe that they're unlucky. It's not because bad things happen to them and then they're unlucky. It's because they already believe they're unlucky, and then unlucky things happen. It's that way around. And once you realize the mechanics of, it's actually the nature of reality. One element of it is that your thoughts create your reality, but then when it physically happens, it strengthens that belief. So with me and Crohn's, once I just continually saw that I'm the healthiest I've ever been in my life after my bowel perforation, after I recovered, I was like, wait a second, I'm the healthiest, I'm the strongest, I feel the best, I'm the heaviest. And so it reaffirmed my belief of like, well, I don't have Crohn's anymore. I'm healed from it because I don't have any signs of it that I used to. I don't go to the bathroom 6 times a day on a good day anymore. I have a great appetite and all the rest of it. So my belief system got stronger in the right way. Changing your perception is fundamental, but how do you help people change their perception is not easy. And that's what I do with being a gut health coach, is help people reframe their perception to their health and other elements of their life as well.
So yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if someone's watching this and they've currently got a gut issue, maybe they've got Crohn's, and I appreciate obviously everyone's Crohn's is slightly different and everyone's journey is slightly different. So we spoke about there, the first important thing is get your beliefs right in the right place, set your attitudes in the right place. Can you take through from your experience the steps that you went through to overcome it or get to the point where you're symptom free, particularly talking about like nutrition and the other important aspects?
Yeah, the first step was nutrition. Once I understood like what I was putting my body all these years, it was like, wow, I'm actually causing more damage and more harm. I started to get to work to remove foods out my diet. So like I removed things like cow's milk, spicy food with skin on. So things like grapes, blueberries. The reason, I'll touch on this briefly, the reason why I did that, because skin doesn't get digested very well. When I had an ileostomy bag, it was see-through, so I could physically see what was happening in my digestive system. And I ate a load of blueberries because I was like, oh, blueberries is a superfood, it's high in antioxidants and so forth. And what was happening is I had in this ileostomy bag, which was see-through, and it was probably about, intestines are roughly 20 feet long, small intestines. This was about 15 feet into my intestine, which has gone quite a far distance, what I'm consuming, and the skin was undigested, and it was just a pile of it in this ileostomy bag. And I was like, wait a second, this skin is intact, and I've had active disease still when at the time I had a perforation in 7 other locations. So I had 7 skip lesions in my small intestine. I was like, so this skin would go and hit all these active diseased parts of my bowel that could lead to agitation. It could make the symptoms worse. So I was like, wow, I could see firsthand what's going on. So I got rid of food with skin. Obviously, like processed food, so like hams, like cold cut meats, bacon, sausage, and pork in general actually went. Got rid of red meat. A lot of people do benefit from red meat. I just personally got rid of red meat. And there's some other caffeine and some other things. Then it's like, all right, what can I introduce? And it was more like, well, what has Mother Nature given us? I started to learn the healing benefits of plants and herbs, which led to me creating Cosmic Hue on Fifth Ray down the line. And it was about like, what's food is anti-inflammatory, what is alkaline food, because all disease known to man thrives in an acidic environment. And what creates an acidic environment, things like caffeine, things like red meat, stress can do all this and so much more. Once you get, you move forward from diet, then it's more of a case of like your mindset as well. That's like the next stage, I would say. Well, I think mindset should be first, but yeah, mindset continually evolves when you get deeper into this journey. And it certainly did for me. And I've seen it with other people. Like I met up with someone who was a former client who's now become a friend. And he he said to me like, oh, you and I have Crohn's disease. And he paused. He went, no, we had Crohn's disease. And he's managed to change his belief system to like, no, I don't have it anymore. And he was an overthinker. He was a worrier. He was very much consumed by his thoughts. And it's a journey. It's a continuous journey. There's no like hard stop as well when it comes to this. It's not like, all right, I've got to this point and I'm better. I'm 7 years into this post perforation and it's ongoing. I have to continue improve diet. I have to improve the way I think, how I manage my stress, continually move my body, exercise. And you never get to a point with like, you know what, I'm better. I can take my foot off the gas. It's forming habits is something I haven't touched on, but being able to form these turn into habits because it takes 21 days to build a habit and 90 days for it to be a lifestyle. So after 21 days of doing something all the time, it becomes a bit more imprinted as a habit. 90 days, you're in complete autopilot. But up until the first 21 days, you're thinking about it. It's like, all right, I wake up in the morning. All right, have I had my Cosmic Hue or my herbal tea? All right, oh, you know what? I need to make this for breakfast. Oh, wait a second. I just had a negative thought. I need to, how do I change this? And then that's the hardest bit. And that's what people struggle with is that getting it off the ground. Once you build a habit and once it becomes a lifestyle, it becomes easier as time moves forward.
Yeah, it's not something you can just stop. I suppose it's like going to the gym. You spend a few months, maybe a year, build a lot of muscle, lose a lot of weight. And then you say, okay, I'm going to go back to my old lifestyle. Well, then you'll go back to your old lifestyle with everything that's entailed with it. And so what you're saying is that actually get to the cause of the problem, deal with it, but then you have to stay there. You can't just go back unless you're on the symptoms. Okay, so you've addressed the beliefs. You've eliminated quite a lot of stuff out of the diet. It sounds like you've gone on more of a plant-based diet.
So just to kind of mention about this journey, I've always eaten meat all my life. And when I was in hospital, I had a friend who used to make me a lot of fish, so like salmon, mackerel, sardines. Salmon has a wealth of benefits, especially wild caught salmon. But mackerel and sardines are very low on the food chain. So they're not consuming other animal life. I don't know what they consume actually, but because they're so low on the food chain, you know, their bodies are a bit cleaner in that sense. So it's good to have them. They're oily types of fish because they've got the source of vitamin D as well and omega-3. But when I came out of hospital and I was like, right, I'll continue eating fish, I couldn't do it because it reminded me of the hospital. And I was like, and I just cut out fish completely. That was easy. Red meat and pork were easy for me because pork was like, going back to the bacon example, like, you know, I've got them past connotations. All right, see you later. And I was just kind of left with chicken. And I was like, you know, please don't get rid of chicken. I love chicken. And I only ate grilled chicken, roasted chicken, never fried chicken. I stopped all that. And chicken, you know, when it has a skin, going back to don't eat the skin because of the digestion. I didn't eat the skin on chicken. So for years, I continued with chicken because I enjoyed it. But the thing is, with the elimination diet, it's hard to just click your fingers and just remove all this and change it in one hit. It's baby steps and is a gradual thing. But the biggest thing was the meat, more specifically the chicken. So I continue eating chicken and eggs as well. I used to eat a lot of eggs for 5 years. I think for 5 years post bowel perforation, I was still eating chicken, but in the intention, like, I will eventually stop and go vegetarian, plant-based, because I have every intention of going plant-based, but I'm currently vegetarian. So now I'm veggie. I don't eat chicken. I do not eat eggs, and obviously I don't eat meat. But I rarely eat cheese. I do eat halloumi actually. I love a bit of halloumi cheese. Is probably my Achilles heel. But generally speaking, I don't have much dairy, and I could probably go plant-based, to be honest. But I'm still on this journey. It's continual. Like I said, this journey never ends. So yeah, my diet is currently vegetarian.
What are some of the things that you advise everyone to do when they have a gut issue like yours? Because I appreciate everyone is different. So I know a lot of the stuff there you do because you do it and you find that works for you. What are the stuff that you know from helping other people that everyone's got to cut these things out? And is there anything that everyone should be putting in as well?
A really good question. With Crohn's and colitis, with probably just gut health in general, it's not a one size fits all. There's no universal law when it comes to healing, but there's some elements that I would definitely say is get an intolerance test done, because an intolerance test will show foods that you might have already been consuming and not realize that is having an impact. So I don't know, maybe many years after my perforation, I got an intolerance test done, and I saw like paprika was on there, and dates actually is a better example. Is I was eating a lot of medjool dates as a snack. I used to eat it daily, in fact, and it came up on my intolerance test that I'm intolerant to dates. And red peppers. Red peppers was always in some sort of meal frequently. And I'm like, oh, well, I eat these all the time. And once I took them out, I started to notice some like subtle improvements. So being unaware that I thought, oh, these foods are healthy, dates are healthy, red peppers, a great source of vitamin C, for example. I'm like, oh, I'm intolerant to these. So I'd recommend everyone to get an intolerance test to see if there's anything on there that's in their normal diet that is matched to the intolerance test. The other thing is, going back to what I discovered, the healing benefits of plants. Like I created Cosmic Hue, which is an all-natural plant tea, which helps reduce inflammation, strengthens the immune system, it promotes good bacteria in the gut, reduces stress and anxiety levels, among more benefits. It's essentially fueling your second brain. I was drinking plants every day from the moment I was in hospital, and I started to learn about it. When mentioned earlier, I was on my tablet learning about the human anatomy when it came to gut health. I started with like consuming turmeric as a tea, and then fast forward, I have 30 different plants in my kitchen, and I make these different blends, which then led to the inspiration for Cosmic Hue. And I would recommend everybody to drink consciously. Like, I would love everyone to drink my Cosmic Hue, because I know for a fact it's going to help millions of people around the world, and it's already helping not millions, but in the thousands of people currently. Not just if you got Crohn's or colitis, but just for everyday people, from prevention and maintenance of great gut health, because your gut health really regulates your life in a lot of ways, because it is your second brain, and it regulates 90% of your stress, 70% of your immune system. It impacts your mood, so it's fundamental. I would recommend people to start being mindful of what they consume, but consume consciously, and I'd say consciously consume foods and drinks that you know will be beneficial for yourself, because like red meat works for a lot of people. People say like, a carnivore diet, have that, whereas I wouldn't fully agree with that. So it's an element of, what works for you yourself, mixed in with having something like Cosmic Hue in your daily life and getting an intolerance test.
Yeah, personalized nutrition actually is coming up, I feel, more and more these days. And I had a nutritionist on last week, and that was like number 2. She said number 1 was to eat real foods, and number 2 was personalized nutrition, essentially, because we are all very different. It's kind of frustrating when you hear people like recommending these a whole variety of different diets, and they're so convinced that this one diet is the thing for you. And generally it might be a good diet, but everyone is quite different. But it sounds like really the most important thing there is, and coming back to beliefs and reframing, is not necessarily eating for enjoyment, but eating for your health, which then leads to enjoyment. Because I don't have any health conditions, and I haven't really suffered with eating bad food, but I'm still someone that is constantly trying to improve my diet because I know what impact it's having in my body. And it's quite hard to learn about the body, learn about food, and then not make those changes, particularly when you know the detriment it has on your body. I remember when I was a teenager, and my friend and I, we would get a Domino's pizza, and we would get one large pizza each, eat it, and feel horrendous afterwards. And you just think, short-term gain for long-term consequence. Yeah, we did that a couple of times, and then after a while, I was like, you know what? This isn't worth it.
yeah, you get to that point.
So tell us then, what is in Cosmic Hue?
Yeah, so Cosmic Hue is an all-natural plant tea, and it's a functional drink and what it contains is 7 different plants. And the combination of these plants is a mixture of the health benefits that help with just promoting overall good gut health, because the premise is to fuel your second brain, your gut. Ingredients in there are marshmallow root, echinacea, ashwagandha root, stinging nettle, fennel seeds, and cat's claw.
And then what is the main impact it's having on the body?
The first, it impacts people slightly different, but generally speaking, it's because your gut is almost like the epicenter. Right now, a lot of people are focused on brain health, stimulating the mind, because it leads to more being active, productivity. And what Cosmic Hue is really helping is giving you really truly sustained energy, because if you're feeling tired and fatigued, and say someone goes to coffee and it's like, all right, I need coffee to start my day. It stimulates your mind, and it gives the perception and the illusion that it's stimulating your mind. But when that coffee wears off and you have this crash, that crash is because you haven't fueled your body. You feel like you've fueled yourself because your mind's stimulated, but your body's not stimulated. And what Cosmic Hue does is really nourishes and fuels your body from the inside out to give you longer sustained energy without any caffeine, and there's no stimulants in it either, because your gut controls your energy. Like, for example, when you're hungry, your energy levels become low and you're tired, and you can even be a bit moody and lethargic. Whereas you have Cosmic Hue and you're consuming it, your energy levels will naturally increase, and you won't have any crashes, you won't have any dips, and it's more of a subtle increase. The other element is mood. So I mentioned earlier that 90% of your stress is actually controlled by your gut, which is your cortisol hormone. Dopamine and serotonin, which is like your happy hormones, are controlled by your gut. So when you consume this, it's got ashwagandha and astragalus, which are both adaptogens, which are both scientifically proven to reduce your stress and anxiety levels, leaving a sense of calmness and promoting a happier mood. And overall gut health is reducing inflammation, which inflammation is important to the body because it's the immune system saying, like, we need to send inflammation to protect that part of the digestive system. Well, you get inflammation in all parts of your body, in fact, but when it becomes chronic inflammation, which can be caused by sugar, for example, then we want to reduce that inflammation levels. And a lot of us have probably an imbalance in our gut microbiome. So Cosmic Hue adds it promotes good bacteria in the gut as well. And plus, it tastes really delicious as well. Like the key thing is, yeah, it's got all these plants. There's no sugars, sweeteners, flavors, nothing. It's literally the taste of these plants combined. And because I feel like I'm an expert when it comes to these plants because of just all the years I've immersed myself in these, is that, yeah, this combination of plants have tremendous health benefits for overall gut health, energy levels, and your mood. But what also is great about it is it tastes great because like echinacea has a really natural sweet undertone, marshmallow root as well. So it's not just purely like it doesn't have any aftertaste. It's not bitter. It's not like uh, like a green tea. I love green tea. I love peppermint tea and chamomile and the common herbal teas. But this is a plant tea, and this plant tea is functional. It heals, and it naturally tastes fantastic as well.
So it's a way of adding something into your diet that's going to lift up, optimize your gut health, and then your gut health from there can then optimize the rest of your health, because it's the kind of centrality of your health, really, isn't it? I mean, all the food goes through it, and if you don't have a good gut, like in your more extreme experience, you don't even absorb nutrients very well. And that was a big reason why you weren't absorbing nutrients, wasn't it? It's because the gut was not in a good place. Where did you get the name Cosmic Hue from?
So when I was creating this plant tea and I had this vision for it, I was like, what's the perception of herbal tea? Herbal tea is earthy. You have like these tones. The name of them is literally what it is: a peppermint tea, a green tea, a chamomile tea. Is because it's the actual herb it is itself. And I was like, well, I want to create something that is what encompasses what I've created. And I thought, well, what is it doing? And to me, it's illuminating your gut. It really illuminating from the inside out, and that's where hue came from. Hue is a form of like. It's a shade of a color. Hue is illumination, and I was like, well, cosmic. I love space. I love kind of the universe. I love like astronomy and astrology, and I was like, yeah, cosmic, because these plants are from Mother Nature, but to me, it's out of this world in terms of what it can do. So I was like, Cosmic Hue. I thought it was a dynamic and cool name. I just thought it was pretty cool, to put it simply.
Yeah, it does have a good, it does sound like a good name, actually. What about Fifth Ray then?
Yeah, so Fifth Ray I was reading a book called We the Arcturians. We the Arcturians is about the star system, Arcturus. Is part of the Boötes constellation. And the book was about a woman called Dr. Norma Milanovic. She was able to channel these beings from the star system Arcturus, and they were imparting knowledge to her about humanity and their own star system. And one of the things that they mentioned was, and this is probably, people will be watching this like, what are you talking about? But I found it fascinating. And one of the things that they mentioned was about, they were talking about the chakras in the human body. We have 7 chakras, which are essentially energy centers. Some people will be familiar with the third eye. Is the most common one, which is here in the center of your forehead. And that is your 6th chakra, also known as the 6th ray. So the 5th chakra, which is also known as the 5th ray, is your throat chakra, and what that means is, or symbolizes, is speaking the truth, healing, and vision. And I picked that up from this book, and I'm like, oh, I love the meaning behind it. Like, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's healing. I'm speaking the truth, and it's my vision. And plus, I thought Fifth Ray sounded cool. I was like, this is a cool name to call this brand, and that's really fundamentally where it came from. And another part of the name is, because I'm on my own spiritual journey, which we haven't touched on, is that we live in the 3D, we live in the third dimension. We view things in a linear way. Time is like past, present, future. But if you're on a spiritual journey, or if you're this way inclined, what humans are essentially doing is on this journey of ascension. And the next part of the ascension is to the 5th dimension, also known as the fifth ray. So for me, it was all encompassing my own personal journey of trying to evolve mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually into the fifth dimension, aka the fifth ray.
You came from one of your darkest or hardest times, being in hospital, and then you went to do something that was quite a significant achievement in regards to powerlifting. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was an exciting part of my life, because once I went through all that turmoil and I started to recover and I was coming out the back end of it, I had my reversal surgery after 6 months, which in hindsight was super quick. But when you're living in hell every day, that 6 months felt like 60 years. And one day I was changing my ileostomy bag, and when I took the previous bag off, my intestine, which is, when they give you a stoma, it just sits on the edge of your stomach. My intestine prolapsed and it fell out on my stomach, and it was dangling on the inside of my gut. Like 6 inches was literally just dangling, and I was in shock and I was stunned, and it was horrific, to say the least. To fast forward, we eventually had surgery to put it back into my gut, and that's when the reversal happened. That was a blessing in disguise, but I didn't see it at the time. So I had I recovered from that, and I started to heal. And I was like, you know what? I want to, for my own sake, I want to put a stamp on this journey. Like, I want my own validation of like, I've come out the other side. I am bigger, I'm stronger, I'm faster, I'm more intelligent, I'm the best version of me. I feel it, but I kind of wanted something to externally show it, because a lot of it was more like mental and emotional. And so I had that reversal surgery in my bowel perforated in Christmas Day 2016. I had the reversal surgery May 19th, 2017, so about 6 months. I got back in the gym after 6 weeks, I believe, which was probably faster than most people, because this hadn't fully healed, the wound from that surgery. I got back into the gym slowly in July, so from May to July, and then by October, I'm training hard, I'm focused, and I lifted in the gym 170 kilo when I weighed 53 kilo in body weight. So it was like 3.5 times my body weight in that short space of time. And there was someone I got chatting to in the gym. He was a powerlifter, and we got chatting. I was like, oh, I'd love to get into powerlifting. How did this come about? I don't know nothing about getting into the sport. And I think I posted a video that I pulled 170 kilo, and he messaged me saying, wow, like, I looked into this and I could see, like, if you got into powerlifting, you could be third in Britain with that lift. And I was like, really? And I was like, oh, cool. And so he was like, I was like, I would love to get into it. Like, can you help me? And he was like, yeah. So this was in the November now of 2017. And we saw there was a competition in January 2018. So it was 10 weeks in this time. And I'm not powerlifting ready. Powerlifting and weight training and bodybuilding are two different elements. Yeah, you're lifting weights, but powerlifting has its own technical rules, and the way you train for it and the way you lift is far more technical. And so we went to work. I worked, and powerlifting is a squat, a bench press, and a deadlift. So my deadlift was strong, and I needed to work on my squat and bench press. So kind of fast forward to the competition. I trained for solid for these 10 weeks. It was 27th of January 2018. So now this is just over a year after my bowel perforated. Again, like, a lot has happened in these 12 months. And in my head, right, there was a deadlift record in the Yorkshire Northeast, because I'm from Leeds. 175 kilo was the current record in the 59 kg bodyweight class. And I was like, I'm going there to break this record. This is going to be my validation. This is my stamp of like, I've done the best I can do for myself. And I only went in there to break this record with very little. I got back in the gym in July, but I had to build my body up. It was by October where I was in a good place. I pulled that 170 and I'm like, I'm going to pull 180. That's all I'm interested in. That's my focus. That's my goal. So I went into that competition and I absolutely destroyed that competition because I not only broke that deadlift record, I pulled 180 kilo when I weighed 53 kilo at the time. So it was way over 3.5 times my body weight after coming off the back of a bowel perforation and 2 major bowel surgeries. But I came in first place and I qualified to compete for the British Championships later that year as well. And then that kind of took me in a whole different journey because it was like the continuation of this. I went through this turmoil with my health to now being one of the strongest people pound for pound in the country within 12 months after a bowel perforation.
Yeah, that's incredible. What was going through your mind then when you did that lift and you broke that record, found out you were in first place? I mean, considering everything you've been through, what were some of the thoughts that were going through your mind at that time?
It was simply relief. Like, it's a picture of me actually where I've completed the deadlift, but my eyes are closed and you can see it. I'm literally taking a sigh of relief in this picture, and that encapsulates everything because I've lifted it and I'm just like I've achieved everything. Like this is me. I've come out of it in the best possible way. So my thoughts were simply like, thank you.
Did that feel like the end of the journey for you?
No, it felt like the beginning.
New chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a new chapter because it led me into my powerlifting career. And just to kind of touch on it, I later went on to become the Yorkshire North East champion. I broke that deadlift record again a second time in July. So the first one I broke in January, I broke it again in July 2018 on my birthday actually. My 28th birthday, I pulled 195 kilo. My biggest deadlift actually shortly after that was 200 kilo at 56 kg body weight. So I was getting closer to a 4-time body weight deadlift. And then I went and competed at the British as well, and I was ranked 4th in Britain in 2018.
Wow, amazing. You mentioned earlier that there's no point looking back because you couldn't change what happened. If you could change what happened, would you change it?
Absolutely not. The reason why I wouldn't change any of that, even though I went from the depths of hell, like at the time, it was. It's hard to articulate into words because it was horrendous beyond belief because of the pain and the suffering and just losing everything and being told you're going to die. But if that didn't happen, I would have never got into powerlifting. I never would have been a powerlifting champion. I would have never reached as many people as I have and helped as many people as I have, because that took me on a whole different journey of me wanting to serve other people and help other people. And my passion is to help people, and it's not just necessarily gut health, just to help. And my mission, and that led to my purpose in life, essentially. And without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So everything happens for a reason. And I'm grateful that I've come out the other side, and I'm grateful for where I am today because of the lessons I learned from there. We said earlier in this conversation about failing. And I said, well, actually, it's not failing. It's more about learning. And that's an example. I wouldn't say it could be seen as a failure because of my poor health and I wasn't really taking care of my stress and my physical health. But I learned from it, and that's how I got to this point. So actually, I would never change a thing in hindsight.
It's amazing how many people I ask that question and they say, a similar answer, that they wouldn't change it, because I think on the face of it, you think, oh, of course I would change it, because all you think about is the horrendous parts of it, the suffering. And it's often not until later on that you actually see the silver linings, that you see the positives, and actually how that built your character and how that's given your passion. And to where you are now. Manny, thank you so much. Your story is very inspiring, and I wanted to get you on here because I know it's going to inspire so many other people. And yeah, I can see that you're doing some fantastic work. I can see the passion that you have now, which is amazing. We were talking just before we started recording about passion, and actually we have to be very grateful that when we receive passion for something that that we have it, because it's not everyone does have it. And yeah, it's great that you can help so many people in the way that you are. You are coaching people at the moment. If there's anyone that's watching this or listening to this and they're saying, hey, I'm in a bad place, I really need some help, how can they get hold of you?
Yeah, the best place to reach me is on Instagram. Follow me and message me on Master Key Manny. And I'm open to helping, and feel free to reach out.
Amazing. We'll put those links in the description, and we'll also put the links to Cosmic Hue if people want to try that as well. Good. I think that was a fantastic conversation. So thank you for coming all this way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Steven.